Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Reckless Wrestling Podcast, episode 4. I'm FrankieC. And if you'd like to support us, please like the video, leave a comment, share with any wrestling fans that you know, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You could also subscribe to our social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Now that I got that out of the way, I'd like to start today's episode off talking about real life stuff here. For a lot of people, watching podcasts is an escape, but sometimes reality is dark. Sometimes in life you go through darkness, and sometimes it's for a reason. And I think that a lot of us have been getting that dark vibe recently. This whole thing with Vince McMahon, which I personally wasn't sure if I even wanted to talk about it. But here we are. It's unavoidable. What Vince McMahon was accused of, it's disheartening, it's depressing, it's sad. It's just a terrible, horrible situation. And, I'm trying to figure out, why do I feel this dark vibe since hearing about this? And it feels like that dark vibe is just spread. And it's so tough to even think about or to talk about. But I did speak to a couple of people about this, and I'm like, why do I have this dark, depressing vibe going on? And Nando, I spoke to him about it, and he said, sometimes whenever you're looking up to somebody, or you have a childhood hero, not a childhood hero, but somebody that created something in your childhood, and they do something like this, that's pretty sad. It'll get you down. I didn't look up to the Mr. McMahon character, but there were things about Vince McMahon, the businessman, that I did look up to, that I still do, in some ways. I took some of the stuff that Vince would talk about or be about, and sometimes you take something and you make it your own. And one thing that Vince taught me was to take calculated risks. Sometimes you would hear him say that. And at first, I didn't really realize what he was talking about. But as you get older and as you're invested in certain things or whatever, you take the business mind that he has and you try to implement whatever you could, because you're going to want to listen to someone that went from having no money to being a billionaire. The WWE was worth $1 million when he purchased it from his father back in 1982. And this year, the guy is worth whatever it is, 10 billion, 12 billion. I don't remember. But hats off to him for that. But to use that money for evil, I just don't get it. I've always said that if I ever become super rich, one of those kind of people, the kind of stuff that I would do to help the world, and I'm not patting myself on the back, I think that any normal person would think about that. There are people that donate to all types of charity all the time. So it's nothing new. But I think that that's what it is that when you kind of look up to someone, or you feel like you know them from childhood, it could really bring you to a dark place. Now it's funny because the WWE seems to be giving him the Chris Benoit treatment, which is basically erasing everything about him, erasing his legacy. And it's crazy because with the Chris Benoit thing, I know that he had CTE. We know he had multiple concussions. He had brain damage. He had the brain of an 82-year-old with Alzheimer's, supposedly, from what they studied of his brain. And what he did was horrendous. Probably worse than what Vince has done. To me, anyway. You murdered your son, you murdered your wife, and you killed yourself. I wish that he never did that to his son. I wish he never did that to his wife. I would have been okay with him just offing himself. At least his legacy would have still lived on, but it's not. It's not going to live on. He's not going to go in the Hall of Fame. They're not going to talk about him on WWE TV. And the same thing goes now for Vince McMahon. He now joins that club. So that's horrible. And, Triple H was getting a lot of grief for not properly addressing these accusations at the Royal Rumble press conference after the show. And the thing about it is that you have to remember, Triple H has a different relationship with Vince McMahon than anybody else has. First of all, that's his father-in-law. That's his children's grandfather. Triple H is married to Vince's daughter, Stephanie McMahon. Vince McMahon has taught Triple H everything that he knows about the wrestling business, about production, about, everything that you can think of that Triple H learned. I would say at least 90%. I'll be fair. At least 90% of it, because I'm sure that he learned things from Pat Patterson and Bruce Pritchard through the years. And it put him in a really tough spot. I really don't blame Triple H for giving a non-answer. So that's a really tough position that he was put in. And then you look at the flip side of it, you look at the other side, and there's other people supposedly that may be involved in this, including Brock Lesnar, who was pulled from the Royal Rumble and replaced. Now we're learning that it most likely was Braun Breaker that replaced him. Great spot for Braun. But now you have a void going into WrestleMania as well. Supposedly, it was planned to have Brock Lesnar take on Gunther, possibly for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know. But, it's like when one door closes, another one opens. So there's always the silver lining in everything. And I'm going to take this as a silver lining because now there's another spot to fill. And speaking of Phil, CM Punk was injured at the Royal Rumble during the Royal Rumble match. Supposedly he took DDT from Drew McIntyre and landed wrong, and he tore his triceps. So he's going to be missing WrestleMania. So there's another void spot going into WrestleMania. Again, let's look at the silver lining in all of this. There's another spot open from Punk. There's another spot open from Brock. And it does kind of suck, but at the same time, it'll allow someone else to move up on the card. And maybe even people that we never thought would move up. But there are quite a few names that could be filling in for these guys. Could it be Gunther, who teased taking on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania for the World Championship? He had a great promo against Seth, the Raw before the Royal Rumble, the go-home show. and it was pretty solid. And he kind of had me thinking if he was going to win the Royal Rumble match. He didn't end up doing it, but who's to say that he doesn't win the Elimination Chamber in Australia next month and head on to challenge Seth Rollins, who's still recuperating from his knee injury, and hopefully he makes it to WrestleMania and defends his World Heavyweight Championship. So that's a great choice. But the other guy, the main guy that I was thinking to fill his spot, to fill CM Punk's spot, is Drew McIntyre. The seeds are all planted for Drew. The seeds were planted for Drew in case Seth was not able to make it to WrestleMania due to his knee injury. But Seth said that he's going to do everything in his power to make it to WrestleMania. He's going to rehab, and he's going to come back and do what he does best. And I believe him. I don't think that they would let him go on TV and kind of make that sort of promise if there wasn't some sort of hope where hopefully he can make it to WrestleMania, at least defend the championship, even if he drops it. But this is an interesting scenario because you have a situation where Drew McIntyre is still not re-signed to WWE from what we know. Could he have signed the contract and we don't know about it? Of course. We don't know everything. And that's the great part about WWE today is that a lot of these dirt sheets that leak things or they think they're leaking things, it's kind of made to work these dirt sheets, which is a great thing. So during a promo that Drew had done on January 8th, he was heavily alluding to the fact that he felt guilty about missing his family. He wasn't there for family events. He misses home and all this stuff. And he says that maybe he has to go home for a little while, get his priorities straight. And, you know, he's been outspoken about how much he sacrificed. And, you know, being on the road, it's not easy. It can't be easy for anybody. I can't imagine being on the road the way that a WWE superstar has to travel around the world. So I can't really speak to that. But the question is, does Drew... I don't see him re-signing anywhere else, I'll be honest. AEW has a stacked roster as well. The guys that have gone there, some of them have been put on the back burner. But I don't really see him signing anywhere else like TNA or NWA. I think that if he's going to take time off, I think if he's not going to sign a new deal, that he's just going to go home, rest, recuperate, and all this stuff. And to me, you know, even if he goes to WrestleMania, even if he challenges Seth Rollins and loses, that's okay too. Because it'll actually add to his story. You know, Drew has lost a lot of big time matches in recent years. He lost the WWE Championship match against Roman Reigns at the Clash of the Castle in his home region. We know it wasn't his home country. He's from Scotland. But nonetheless, there were a lot of his family members there in attendance, and it was a big letdown for him. He also lost a World Heavyweight Championship match against Seth Rollins recently. And I think that even if he lost at WrestleMania and he does go away, and let's say he stays away for a good 6 to 8 months, by next January, imagine Drew McIntyre freshened up. And, you know, a fresh state of mind could do a lot for somebody. Imagine him returning as number 30 in the Men's Royal Rumble and winning the Royal Rumble match and going on to challenge for either the WWE Championship at WrestleMania or the World's Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, and winning the championship in front of a crowd, which was his entire point. When Drew won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 36, remember, that was COVID times. That was the beginning of COVID. Drew was so hot at that time. He won the Royal Rumble. The crowd was incredibly behind this guy. I couldn't believe how over he was, but he was over. And he goes on to WrestleMania to take on Brock, who, as we just spoke about, he's not going to be a part of this WrestleMania, but to beat Brock at that time was a huge deal. And people wanted to see it. And he walked in there, and it was, you heard the echo throughout the arena with every move. You heard them speaking during the match. And he wins the match, and there's no one there cheering. There's no one there to cheer. It was sad. It was depressing. It was not what Drew McIntyre or any of us imagined when it was finally time for this guy to get his moment. It's not what we imagined it being. So we were all let down. Probably the person that was let down the most was Drew. Think about it. It's your crown achieving accomplishment of your career that you've been waiting your entire life to do this. And it's in front of nobody. So he could come full circle and return next year. Like I said, take a break, take time off, and recuperate. And work on yourself, not just physically, mentally, and get yourself to that point, and maybe build your mystique up in the months leading up, where people think that he's going to sign somewhere else. There's a bunch of things that he could do personally, just with social media alone. Social media is a wrestler's biggest tool today, as far as promotion and getting yourself over and all this stuff. So I believe in Drew, and if he goes that route, that would be amazing. The other side, and I hope that it goes this way, is that he could quietly re-sign a new deal with the WWE, and maybe they put out rumors that he has not re-signed, so that people think that he's going to lose at WrestleMania. And what ends up happening? Drew wins the World's Heavyweight Championship. And maybe he can even take that story, take those rumors and run with it. Pretend he didn't re-sign. It'll be like the time that CM Punk won the WWE Championship against John Cena at Money in the Bank in 2011, where people were like, oh my God, his contract's expiring at midnight. And CM Punk, he took off through the crowd, and he returned a couple weeks later. They could have waited a little bit longer to have CM Punk return to TV with the championship. But I guess due to whatever time restraints, and they were so close to SummerSlam, and they wanted to get that match in for SummerSlam, which was a whole nother story of a disaster that I did not enjoy. Alberto Del Rio cashing in and taking that championship from Punk. Kevin Nash had returned and powerbombed him, and it is what it is. But my point is, and staying on track, is that he could take that same type of mystique, the uncertainty from the fans that we don't know if this guy re-signed or not. I think that would be a cool storyline. But as long as it's in front of an audience, that's the main thing. If he did come back next year and did that, he would come back as a babyface. But I am enjoying this heel run that he's on. I'm loving it. He's great as a heel, especially that promo that he had, that he said against Punk on Raw. The guy's out there with a torn tricep. He's talking about his friend that is battling cancer and that this is nothing but a flesh wound to him and he'll be back. And Drew comes out there and absolutely murdered him on the mic. He said, "I'm glad this happened because I prayed for this," or something to that, and that got major heat. I think that he's tapping into a great heel run because he has been a heel for, I don't know, maybe the past 4 or 5 months, but he was kind of getting sympathy from the crowd as well. And it was smart because and some people really didn't want to boo him. But I'm loving the route that he's on right now as a heel. It's great. And he gets that World Heavyweight Championship and becomes a monster heel and just squashes people. I would love that. I would love to see that. I really do hope that he re-signs with WWE ASAP. But what I'm thinking also is that now, if he does win the World's Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, he could still continue his feud with Seth Rollins if Rollins heals up 100%, or he could feud with another babyface on the roster. Because remember, Cody's probably going to head over to SmackDown. So now on the Raw side, he could rehash his feud with Jey Uso if he wants and defend the World's Heavyweight Championship. But I do not want him to lose that championship for the foreseeable future. Because remember one thing, with CM Punk with that tricep tear, they're saying 4 to 6 months before he returns. So by the time WrestleMania rolls around, that's about we're 2.5 months out from WrestleMania. So he should be like more or less halfway finished recovering by then. And by the time that he has a 2 or 3 month feud with 1 or 2 people after that, I would love to see CM Punk return for a real Summer of Punk and challenge for that World's Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam. But the thing is, as much as I want a Summer of Punk, I would love for Drew McIntyre to end up beating CM Punk at SummerSlam, and I'll tell you why. The reason is because after SummerSlam, they have a pay-per-view coming up in Berlin. I think it's called Bash in Berlin. And by then, I would hope that Gunther climbs his way up the ranks and challenges for the World Heavyweight Championship in Berlin, right? You don't want to hot potato that World Championship because it's a brand new championship. It hasn't even been around for a year. So what's the sense of Drew dropping it to Punk at SummerSlam and then for Punk to drop it a month later to Gunther? Do you understand? I would love CM Punk to get a world championship run, whether it's the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship. But we can definitely do that for Punk to main event WrestleMania in 2025. But let's stick to 2024. And by the way, I don't care if I want him to win the Rumble and challenge either champion. I don't care if he challenges Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania if Cody still has it by that time. But the thing between now and then is getting the Intercontinental Championship off of him. And I think that the right guy to do that is Sheamus, the Celtic Warrior. Have him return maybe by next month and build a feud with Gunther going into WrestleMania. And you have Sheamus take the Intercontinental Championship off of Gunther. It's the only championship that has eluded Sheamus's career. Okay? He has won every other championship except for the Universal Championship, but whatever. He's won the WWE Championship multiple times. He's won the World's Heavyweight Championship multiple times. When he was the World's Heavyweight Champion, he went on a pretty decent run, including beating Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania in 18 seconds. So he had those runs, but I think that Sheamus needs a run with that Intercontinental Championship. It would also come full circle because they have been feuding for a while now, on and off. Last year's WrestleMania, to me, match of the night for night one was that triple threat Intercontinental Championship match between Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Gunther. So I definitely could see Sheamus taking Gunther on one last time. He gets one last championship opportunity, and it's at WrestleMania, and he beats Gunther. So there solves the problem of getting this Intercontinental Championship off of Gunther. You can even have Imperium try to interfere. We've seen them try to interfere and fail. Maybe they try it at WrestleMania and they fail, and Sheamus capitalizes and wins. I don't care if it's not a clean victory. Could it be a clean victory? Yeah, but Gunther and he's such a great villain, man. I mean, the guy looks like an action figure. He looks like a villain action figure. You know, it's crazy. The guy, he's perfect. He would have been a perfect villain in the Rocky movies. You know, he has some Drago vibes to him. But anyhow, you know, and it's funny because I have not even gone through any of these banners. I'm just rambling on. But let's move on to this next topic here. Cody, he has to be going for that WWE Championship against Roman Reigns. There's no other way. I know that on Raw, he had a great promo against Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was trying to convince Cody Rhodes that this is the world championship that matters. This is the one that you should be wanting to fight for. And a lot of people who may have not thought about that because, and to me, he's already fought the guy. They had a great rivalry. They had 3 matches: WrestleMania, Backlash, Hell in a Cell, the infamous torn pec that Cody Rhodes fought through. And to me, their story is over for now. There's no need to revisit that at WrestleMania 40. WrestleMania 40 is usually reserved for these big, huge matches. I mean, every 10 years is what I'm saying. So, you know, WrestleMania 10 was big. WrestleMania 20 was huge. WrestleMania 30, you know, and you have these people that overcome. Chris Benoit, who as we spoke about before, you're never going to hear them speak about this, but that was he was the biggest underdog at that time. And after a 17-year odyssey, as JR said, he finally won the World's Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. And after the match, Eddie Guerrero comes in and, you know, he hugs him. And what a moment, man. And it's sad that it's a moment that's kind of erased from history. WrestleMania 30, you had Daniel Bryan and the Yes Movement. And Daniel Bryan overcame the odds. He beat Triple H in the first match of the night. That's when WrestleMania was one night only. So he beats Triple H in the opening bout. He goes on and he faces Batista and Randy Orton in a triple threat match later on that night. You know, kayfabe, injured shoulder, and all this stuff. And he overcomes the odds and he beats both of them. And he stands tall as the undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And what a great moment. Here we are another 10 years later. It's WrestleMania 40. And after what Cody Rhodes went through last year, losing and facing all this adversity, there's no way that he goes into WrestleMania 40 and doesn't capitalize by winning the WWE Undisputed Championship. That would just be insane. So I think that, to me, he has to do it. And I think that maybe The Rock hosts WrestleMania this year, just like he did WrestleMania 27, and how he kind of, in a way, cost John Cena the WWE Championship against The Miz. Maybe The Rock hosts WrestleMania, and like I said last week, he inadvertently costs Roman the WWE Undisputed Championship. And I don't want him to interfere in a way where he's going to directly cost Roman the match. But I do want him to be a distraction. He comes out, he cleans house. Like I said, he is the equalizer. And let Cody Rhodes do it on his own. Let him capitalize on his own, get that clean victory, get that WWE Championship around his waist, because he is ready for it. He is the new face of the company. And I have faith in him. And for him to go in there and lose would be terrible. But I understand why they had to do that promo with Seth, because the World Heavyweight Championship, like I said, it's a new championship. It's not even a year old. So you have to make it feel important. You have to make it feel prestigious. And I think that promo, as much as people were saying, oh, he buried the WWE Championship, he said that Roman's not the guy to beat and that championship don't matter. Hey, listen, I've been saying it for 2 years now that WWE Championship to me is vacant, because in the rule book, if you don't defend the championship for 30 days, you're stripped of the championship. And guess what? To me, Roman has been stripped of that title for 2 years. But that's a different story. And speaking of stories, Cody needs to finish his, because we are so sick of out hearing about it. You know? So, and it would be a great moment, man. It's the only championship that has eluded his family legacy. He spoke about it when he first came back, how Dusty Rhodes almost won that championship in Madison Square Garden, and he had the championship held up on the corner and everything, and he didn't win. So this would be that fairy tale ending that it seems that WrestleMania is supposed to have, especially on these 10-year marks. So hopefully he does that, and the American Nightmare can accomplish the American Dream. So another happy story that we can get possibly is LA Knight, who could capitalize on capturing a championship, capturing his first championship in WWE. And I think that championship is most likely going to be the United States Championship against Logan Paul, like me and Nando spoke about during our Royal Rumble review this past Sunday, and you can check it out on YouTube, episode 3. But we spoke about how I think that it's time for him to finally capitalize, for WWE to capitalize on him and to put a championship on him, because the guy is gold. So he needs championship gold around his waist. And hopefully after that, he can get to that next level, maybe win Money in the Bank, or maybe he's the one that goes on and wins the Royal Rumble next January. We don't know. But I think that if that happens, you have, I mean, because there's 2 nights to WrestleMania, so maybe night 1, you have Sheamus finally capturing the Intercontinental Championship, the one championship that he has not won in WWE. You have, maybe as the night 1 main event, Drew McIntyre finally winning the World Heavyweight Championship in front of a crowd. And Nando actually told me, he goes, that's a good idea, but what if at the end of that, Sheamus and Drew, who are good friends in real life, maybe they have a Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero moment after Drew beats Seth for the championship. And that would be awesome. You know, I would love that. And that's a great idea. And then over on night 2, you have LA Knight capturing the United States Championship. So all the fans will be happy that this guy has finally gotten some gold around his waist, and the Yeah movement could continue. And of course, the WWE Championship, you can have Cody Rhodes finally finish the story and capture the WWE Championship. And like I said, the American Nightmare accomplishes the American dream, the dream that his father had, the dream that even his brother had, and the dream that he's had his entire life. It's the reason he left AEW. He didn't care to win the AEW Championship. It's not that he didn't care. Let me not say it like that, but everybody knows that the championship to win, if you're a professional wrestler, is the WWE Championship. Okay? They're trying to make the World's Heavyweight Championship just as prestigious, but that doesn't always, it's not it's not so easy to just build it up in less than a year. It's going to take years to make that World Heavyweight Championship feel prestigious. Seth has been doing a great job with it so far, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people in their minds still think of it as a consolation prize because it's basically what it was when it came out. There's so many ways they could have gone about that, but this is the path that they chose. So this is what's happened, and this is what we're going to go along with. And I'm happy to go along for the ride, you know. It's crazy to think about WrestleMania 20 was 20 years ago. So from WrestleMania 1, with Hogan and Mr. T taking on Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff back in, 1984 or 85. I guess it was 1985, whatever it was. From then to WrestleMania 20 with Guerrero and Benoit on top, and it feels like that was just yesterday. The same amount of time has gone on from then to now. It has been 20 years. So that will put time into perspective for you. Time waits for no man. And the more time that goes by, the more urgency there is for them to capitalize on certain superstars. You really want to build more stars, and I think that taking the championship off of Roman Reigns is the right move at WrestleMania. And I think from now on, moving forward, that there should not be any more part-time champions. That needs to be finished with. This needs to be the end of that. So, I just hope that there's no more injuries on this road to WrestleMania, because there have been way too many injuries going on. Even in NXT, Cora Jade tore her ACL. And it's funny because CM Punk went to pay her a visit, and, she's basically, she was in tears, seeing Punk and all this stuff. And he's on his way to the Royal Rumble for his first match back on TV in 10 years, and he tears his tricep. That was pretty tragic. But, back to the beginning, because I just want to bring this whole show full circle. Sometimes, like I said, people go through some really dark times. We all go through it. Whether it's personal injuries, personal issues, injuries, whatever it is, life's not perfect. And that's okay, you can only, like I said, you have to try to just control whatever is in your control. If it's outside of your control, you can't get mad. But one man that does have control right now is Triple H. And as we say here at the Reckless Wrestling Podcast, in H we trust. Okay? Trust in H. He's been doing a great job. I know that TKO is kind of looking to clean house in WWE, which would be a good thing as far as getting rid of certain people, but I really, really hope that Triple H is not one of those guys. They want to take Bruce Pritchard because he's his right-hand man. even, I mean, I don't think he was involved in that stuff, but if he was involved, yeah, definitely get rid of him. If he wasn't, I mean, I love Bruce Pritchard. I love his Something to Wrestle podcast. It's it used to be great. I mean, I liked it. I should say I used to like it in 2017, 2018, 2019. When he went back to WWE, though, he didn't have as much time, and it's understandable. But nonetheless, love Bruce Pritchard. But I love all you guys who tuned in, and I thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, share this with any wrestling fan that you know. And I just also want to thank everybody for following us on Instagram and TikTok. The TikTok is doing pretty good from what I hear. But I want to get these numbers up on YouTube as well. So please help us out. So I also want to thank my friend Ryan Sunagawa for lending us music from his album called Playing with Matches. Available now on Apple Music and other streaming platforms. And until next time, I'll see you guys and peace out.